So now we'll talk about the rating mode, and in the rating mode, we will do the opposite of what we did before. And before going through the rating mode, I should expect what kind of inputs that I would need to provide to the software, and the what type of outputs that I should expect from the software. And this is important because as a user, you do not need to be just putting data or numbers and expecting outputs. You should also expect what kind of inputs that you should provide to the software and what kind of outputs you should expect to get out of the software. So to calculate the output pressure, I should expect that this part shouldn't be available for me to put any information. Shouldn't be active. And now I should be able to provide some information about the valve specs, which were not available for me before. So this is what happens. I now have the option either to provide the percent opening or the flow coefficient of the valve. I can put it like 50% opening, and just keep in mind that in some cases or percentages like the mass fractions and the mole fractions and these kind of things, it's important. There is a difference between the fraction and the percentage. So in this case, the software is asking for percentage, and it tells us that you can enter a number between 0 and 100. In this case, if you put 0.5, this means that it is 0.5%. It's not 50%. So please keep in mind that this is a very important detail that is might cause a lot of issues if it's not been taken care of well. And now the valve parameters is going to be the same as we mentioned before. You can pick anything, the manufacturer, any kind of valve. Again, I'm just picking any random valve here for the sake of demonstration, and I can run the file, and from here I should expect the output pressure to be calculated. So if it is in atmosphere, this valve just didn't get any pressure drop, or the pressure drop was very low for these specs. For the input, you can use to put the flow coefficient and put it as, again, because the flow coefficient is a function of the valve opening. This is what we mentioned here. According to the valve opening, you can have the flow coefficient from the function. So the flow coefficient, I could put it as 3, and see what results we're gonna get. And from the results, you see the pressure drop is kind of higher. So this is kind of thing that is very important parameter that we can play with. Again, you can instead of defining the valve from here, you can define the valve using the valve characteristics. Just make a square root. You can make the CV as 3. You can make the pressure drop ratio 0.7 and this 0.5. Again, some random numbers, and by running the file you get the results, and the results here, these are the same values that I entered, but here in the percent opening it tells us that it's 100% and the pressure drop is 0.5. So so this is what we should expect from the rating mode. I define the valve and put all the information about the valve, and I'm just expecting to get the outlet pressure according to the valve specs that I provided. One last thing I just need to talk about, which is the choking status. Just to understand what I mean by the choking status, I'm gonna change a little bit the inputs that I have. And because I'm expecting an error and this didn't show up, so if I change it to 2 and run the file, yeah, this is the error that I'm expecting. So just let's see what this error means. It says the flow in the valve is choked, and I just need to highlight or draw your attention to the choking flow, and to understand the choking flow, let's go back to this slide here. We mentioned that as the velocity increases, the pressure decreases, and I should expect that as the velocity increases more, the pressure should decrease more, And the any change or any decrease in the velocity in the pressure should correspond to an increase in the in the velocity. As the pressure decreases, the velocity should increase, which is kind of conservation of energy thing that we can all expect from the basic energy conservation information that we know. But at some point, the velocity will increase to its maximum value, so there is no way the velocity will increase, but the pressure will keep decreasing without any change in the velocity. So the pressure decreases, the velocity increases till the velocity reaches its maximum value, and the pressure will keep decreasing due to the very high velocity that we reached here. So at the choking flow, the velocity, the pressure will decrease without any corresponding increase in the velocity. And as we mentioned before, the increase of the velocity and then the decrease after the vena contracta corresponds to the recovery of the pressure. And in case of choking flow, you are not gaining any velocity. The energy is not transferring from pressure form into velocity form. It's just lost. So the loss in the pressure is gonna be very, very high, and in this case you would be wasting the energy in the flow, and that's why it's called the choking flow. It's kind of like the choking. It cannot breathe or something like that. So this is something that it's not favorable at all. And in the results, you'd see that this is the choking status in the very first piece of information that's being provided by the software. That is, the valve is choked, and the choked outlet pressure is the pressure that we get out or at the choking conditions. Um, so if we see this warning, we just need to make sure that the flow is or the pressure drop is not very, very high in this case. So I would go for another valve with higher CV. I could make it like 5, and in this case the choking flow problem will not be here, and the valve now is not choked. The pressure drop is reasonable. It's around 0.35 atmosphere, which is not bad. And this is all what we're get out of the valve when working at the rating mode. Again, I want to emphasize that it's important to understand the difference between the design mode and the rating mode. You need to know what kind of information you have and what kind of information you're seeking, so that you can go through the right part or choose the right or the suitable option out of these two. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video, inshallah. Goodbye.